when I was in the entertainment program at University of Montana, I wanted to build a festival in Missoula. Like, that's it.
How'd you originally end up in Missoula?
So I visited here my senior year of college. And the reason I even found out about Missoula was I got on like Kaplan's business or college search aggregator of like, what are places that would, meet your desires and needs for college, and University of Montana popped up. And it was interesting because I had gone to this camp in Colorado forever, and I had a counselor that went to school here. So it was kind of like, hey, I want to come up and check it out. And I did. And I came up with my parents and I absolutely loved it. And then I just kind of, went back home, went to a state school college visit with some friends. And then of course, at that moment, I was like, oh, Montana's so far away. Like my friends are all going here. But after 2 years at Texas Tech, I'd paid my dues at Texas Tech in Lubbock, Texas. I had a good time, but I wanted to do something different. And so I transferred up here my sophomore year. Well, I guess my junior year of college.
What do you think, like on that aggregator, why did Missoula or the University of Montana mesh with you? Like what were you interested in?
I think outdoor living and lifestyle was probably one of the biggest indicators for me. Like I said, I grew up going to a camp in Colorado in the summer where you like basically backpacked and hiked around for a month in Rocky Mountain National Park. And so that was just something that always really spoke to me. And then, I think also there was an entertainment management program here at the time. And that was something that was interesting to me, even in high school, was kind of live entertainment, concerts and things like that. So I feel like those might've been the two.
Where'd you grow up? Where are you originally from?
From Dallas, Texas.
Okay. Born and raised
in Dallas, Texas boy.
So how did Lubbock get on the map for you?
That's just where all my friends that couldn't get into University of Texas, or didn't want to go do summer school and do the whole transition through those programs. We went to Texas Tech and, went up to Texas Tech, had the big weekend with, all the fun times that were had, and then, go back and there's a group of you that decides you want to go to Texas Tech. And that's what we did. That's awesome. But it was great. Yeah. Interestingly enough, like my career really started at Texas Tech. There is an event there called Calf Fry that's been going on now probably, I guess like 40 years. When I was there, it was in the 25-year range, and it's a big event for Muscular Dystrophy Association that two fraternities host. And it's like a 6,000 person concert. So the years that I was there, I was like nominated to run that concert. And so, the first year it was like Gary Allen, and the second year it was like Cross Canadian Ragweed, and when they were really big. And so that's kind of how I got cut my teeth in the industry to start. And like the backstory quickly was our fraternity got kicked off campus was getting kicked off campus for hazing when I was a pledge. And the like upper brass's grand idea was that they were going to kick all the actives out and then just make the pledges the actives their like first semester of freshman year. And we're just going to, clean house. And by way of that, they needed someone to run this event. And so I just raised my hand. They voted on me and I ran it. And then when I went to the person that had been running it for years prior, they're supposed to guide you. They'd been doing it. They're seniors and they were like, sorry, figure it out on your own. Mm. So literally it was like, hey, Scott, go figure out a way to produce a 6,000 person concert.
So 2 questions in one. What caused you to raise your hand that day? And when did the idea of going into event management become something on your radar?
What? I think I just wanted to be in control of the party. Like, I think I could, and I think I loved live. I think taking a step back, like I loved live music in high school and even younger than that. My friends and I were trying to find ways to go to concerts and live events and festivals anytime we could possibly go. So I think to finally be in a moment where I was able to kind of be actually a part of that in a material way was really interesting to me at that time. And I kind of I think I've always been one of those people that's just said like, I can do this. like I can figure this out type of thing. And so that's probably what that moment was.
Growing up, what'd your parents do for work? They have any ties to the entertainment industry?
No. So it's interesting because I'm in the live entertainment business, and my sister was a morning host on a radio show in Austin for like 15 years, also in New York. And so we're both have been in entertainment, but my dad's a lawyer, personal injury, and then recently retired. And then my mom was.
It's probably good to have a dad in that space when his children are in the entertainment industry.
Yeah. No, I mean, my dad from day one has been a constant source of knowledge.
Yeah.
Like through because, part of our job is just negotiating hundreds of deals. It feels like constantly all the time with every type of entity and person and vendor you could think of. So having that, and there's a lot of risk, right?
Sure.
So having that kind of mainstay has been really important. It's been very important. And then my mom was an executive at Neiman Marcus in the 60s when there weren't a lot of female executives taking over the reins back then. So she moved from Indiana to Dallas to effectively help Stanley Marcus open like the first flagships of Neiman's in Dallas. But she retired once my sister and I got a little older, and then the hardest job of all, taking care of kids and a family.
Yeah.
So were your parents excited that you and your sister decided to go into entertainment, or were they like the normal parents of go get a business degree or law degree or become a doctor?
Oh, my parents were pretty incredible folks. Like they paved their own way and figured out their way in this world. And they never set boundaries on us. They never said, we want you to do this. We expect this from you. They were always just there to support. And especially for me, like my career started out producing EDM music festivals, like essentially like the largest EDM festival in Texas. And at that time too, back in the early 2010s, that was a kind of a new anomaly in North America. Obviously it was like big in Europe and had been forever culturally. So that was like a shock, but it was, no one ever expressed any type of discontent. Like none of my parents ever said, Scott, what is this? Why are you doing this? They were just there and supported me through it.
For our audience that might not know, what is an EDM concert?
So it's electronic dance music festival. And so Lights All Night started off as a 6,000 person New Year's Eve event that I started literally my senior year of college, and then moved back to Dallas, and we kind of launched the first large event, which was a 6,000 person concert for New Year's Eve in Dallas. And we had no idea what we were doing. We found this kind of office atrium where it was like a couple buildings that were enclosed with like a park and atrium in the middle that had an ice skating rink. And we covered the ice skating rink, put a stage up, like set up bars and whatnot, and 6,000 people bought tickets. And like if you look at the pictures, it's wild. We had the best intentions and we had good people around us, but like in terms of what we do today from a life safety and logistical perspective, like it pales in comparison. Fire marshal was probably like, you can sell 4,000 tickets. We probably sold 6 type of thing. And but that kind of launched into Lights All Night, which became a 2-day music festival over New Year's Eve. Big, massive stages and indoor spaces with DJs from all over the world. So that's like the Calvin Harris's, the Avicii, the Skrillex's, the Deadmau5. Those are all mainstay headliners for our festival over the years. And I ran that for 13 years, and then sold that in 2000 at the end of 2022.
So I'm assuming in your story, after 2 years in Lubbock, you came to Montana to finish up school, and then you went back to Dallas.
Yep.
And we're putting on these events and shows.
Okay. My close friend from high school had called me when I was in school up here, and it was kind of an interesting time. So I worked for Max Baucus as an intern for 2 years doing like constituency, work and things like that. And I was kind of like at this in-between moment of like, am I going to go like move to DC and focus on a career, or like launch my career starting in politics, working with Max, and then segue from there. But that, I guess, I don't know, like as exciting or as much as that seemed like the right path, it wasn't really getting me up out of bed in the morning. And then my friend called me, and my mom had kept telling me in college, like, there's this entertainment program. Like, that's what we had been talking about when you went up there, that's affiliated with the university. And my close friend called me and just kind of said, I want to start a concert business. And I know that you had done Calf Fry at Texas Tech. And our big idea at that point was like, let's go build the next Austin City Limits Music Festival. But when we got back to Dallas, Austin City Limits Music Festival existed, the capital necessary, the location, the venue. Still to this day, like, Dallas doesn't have an event like that. And there's a reason for it. But there was an opportunity in EDM, and it was kind of staring us right in the face because my friend had started these New Year's Eve parties in 2008 and 2009, which were just parties for all of our friends from Southern colleges that were coming to town for the bowl games that would happen at the Cotton Bowl. And so they just needed somewhere to go. And so he had sold like 800 tickets in 2008 and then 1,200 in 2009. And so I just said, hey, let's just take this momentum that you have and turn it into a brand and see what happens. And that's kind of how that was the genesis of that. And then it blew up to, 15,000 a day in the third year, and then was effectively like a 20,000 a day EDM festival for the remaining part of that decade.
Was that your style of music that you really liked, or did you just go with what you felt was going to be different because I'm thinking country's probably going to work pretty good in Dallas.
Yeah.
Obviously some other genres, but EDM didn't seem like that was on the scene at that point.
No. I mean, the honest truth is no. Like, my friend that actually was from Texas that was in school with me up here, like, we would drive around in our cars and, you play your music, and he'd always have like BPM on, or the electronic dance music station from Sirius. And I'd always be like, turn that off. Like, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
It was just different. Like, I was listening to different type of music. But I mean, once I got into it, like, it was infectious. Like, it's an incredible environment. It's so cerebral. It's so just like, it's, 7 and 8 hours of just things going on everywhere, the momentum, the kind of vibe in the room and everything. It's an incredible experience. It's something that I over time grew to love. And I would say, like, these days, my electronic dance music kind of tastes are more in probably like the house techno, like more, I don't know, mature type of music. It's not like the big headbanging, like big room house type of stuff. So, but yeah, no, I think it's an incredible marketplace too. I mean, they have like Electric Daisy Carnival in Vegas that does 180,000 people a day over 4 days. And then they have the same comparable festival in Belgium, Tomorrowland, that does 200,000 a day, 4 days in a row, 2 weekends in a row. So the market is gigantic. It's not slowing down. It's changing. Like, it always, like, a lot of these markets that blow up or genres that blow up, a lot of subgenres are created from there and other opportunities and events, but it's a pretty wild world for sure.
What were some of the early mistakes that you made starting a business with your buddy, outside of breaking the fire codes, of course?
Yeah. I mean, the classic, we built an event that, that first year was 6,000. The next year we miraculously broke even and sold 12,000 or so tickets a day, which is kind of unheard of in our business. And then the third year we had a conflict with the venue contract, literally load in and load out dates with another event that was kind of a huge mainstay event. So we moved the venue for a year, and we went too big. Like, we doubled the talent budget, we doubled the infrastructure costs. We kind of were riding on this idea of like, we sold 6,000 tickets and then we sold 24,000 tickets over 2 days. We can absolutely sell 15,000 tickets a day over 3 days, right? And we booked, to this day, like the largest EDM lineup in the state of Texas. Like, it was insane. Like, it had every major hit maker that you could think of, and even ones that, if they weren't hit makers then, they are now. And we got hit with bad weather. Sales were soft. We overpriced, and we ended up losing $1 million. And we were 23 years old. And we were just, totally unprepared. That was like our first major hit. And, we figured it out from there, and it took years to kind of dig out of that and reform the model. But a lot of, how people say like you learn so much more from failure than you do from success. Like I've had friends that are entrepreneurs and in business that have been wildly successful and didn't have those kind of hard days until later on in their career. I am fortunate that I had them earlier on for many reasons. But yeah, that's, just looking at thinking that you're just going to win, right? And it's, we weren't covering our downside as much as we should.
I mean, when you talk about 15,000 people a day for 3 days, I can't imagine all the logistics that go into an event like that behind the scenes, from obviously figuring out your price point, booking talent, but just bathrooms, traffic flow, like other vendors.
Right.
How do you go about finding a team, staffing? I mean, do you have, like during the season, did you have a full team, or was it just the two of you just finding volunteers for a weekend, or how do you manage the logistics?
So back then we were connected with another promotions company that had been in the business for about 10 years in a pretty material way. And so we were able to utilize a lot of their relationships from department leads perspective. So that's, you come in and you bring in a life safety lead, and that person works through security deployment. They work with city officials, police, fire, medical, et cetera. And they speak that language and they understand what those individuals and what communities are looking for, right? To that end as well, it's like production, hospitality management, food and beverage services, all the various kind of departments. You bring in specialists. A lot of times they're independent contractors that are realistically working all the other music festivals around the country. So we kind of started there, but after being in the business for like 15 plus years and kind of growing up and with the trend of music festivals becoming, much more popular and much more saturated in market, we've been really fortunate to create a lot of great relationships. So like for Zootown Festival, it's absolutely the best team that I've ever worked with in my entire career. And it's really exciting because, when you've been doing something for 15 years and we've been fortunate to be in the position we are, like you kind of get to decide who you want to work with. And then hopefully if they're available, you can get them on. But that's kind of the name of the game. It's like I, sit at the top as like a festival director and with the partners. But then my job can go all the way from one day talking about ticket strategy and marketing and finance to like the other day I was, on South Avenue measuring where road barricade is going to be with a local vendor and things like that. That may be, and that like I would say that not every single festival director is probably that way, but I am, and especially with this market because it just is really important to me. So I want to make sure those things are covered.
So on the morning of festival day, are you at your best, loving life, or is it stress and just chaos?
No, I think when things get harder, I get calmer, and I think that disposition has really helped me in this business because honestly, like it's hard every day. Yeah. Like they're especially doing like events like this and the way that we're doing it. There's just so many things that others and everyone else may find as issues that they have to bring to you as a problem, and it's the end of the world, et cetera. And you have to just feel all of those as like, it's not the end of the world. I'm sure there's a solution. Let's sit down and figure it out. And 9 times out of 10, when those when that feeling is relayed over email, it's accomplished and solved over a phone call. And that's what we find is really effective on our end.
Rapid fire question, Steven. Let's transition here. Scott, what was your first original memory of Missoula?
My first original memory. So my first original memory was when I visited in college, and my friend that was a counselor took me to a house party in the Rattlesnake, and like kind of, we went up some dirt road. We were probably in like mid Rattlesnake, but then we like take a right up a dirt road, and I'm like, where are we going? Towards, Jumbo. And then we walk in, I get out, everyone's hanging out this like cool house, and I walk inside and there's a vine that has taken over the entire living room and downstairs of this home. And then I walk upstairs and the vine is still in other parts, is growing throughout the entire house. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever because it was like this house full of college kids. Everyone's having a good time. There's a vine growing in it. And I was just like, this place is, this speaks to me.
That's awesome.
I like this.
What zip code do you live in?
59803.
What's your favorite coffee shop?
I really enjoy all the coffee shops in Missoula, but Black Coffee Roasters has been speaking to me a lot lately. And I love to build out the area and the coffee as well.
How about restaurant?
That's a tough one. I live up near Shadows Keep, so it's like one of my favorite places to just grab a drink and hang. So that's definitely on the list. But it's like it's hard. It's like Charlie B's is awesome. Old Post is awesome. We go to Canby, we go to Camino. So I don't know. I enjoy a lot of different restaurants around Missoula.
What do you think is the weirdest thing about Missoula?
I still I can't get over the slant street. I just think the slant streets are a funny build out and the story behind all of that. It makes sense, but like what the original idea was, but now how it plays with the greater grid, it's pretty interesting. What
do you love the most about Missoula?
I love the community. I really do. I mean, the community and the access to outdoors. It's awesome. Like, I went to school here, and so I mean, I feel like there's some sense of, I feel like I have my little piece of like, I can say, oh, well, I've been here for 15 years, or I went to school here. And I love the daily reminders from people in my neighborhood that'll be like, no, you haven't. I've been here for 30 years, and it's kind of, and what I love about that is like the pride, like in this community that people have in this town. And that's something that I take really seriously. So I love that.
Has there been a specific or particular book that has made the largest impact on your life?
Yeah. So, Into Thin Air, I thought was always a really interesting book. And I just always remember the story. And I think the thing that I think about today is about how not letting ambitions kind of override the things that are important in your life. And then, also The Four Agreements was a book that I read and I continue to read over and over to just kind of put back into perspective, like how we think and what's important in life. So it's like, I think I'm always trying to find things that are grounding me and making sure that I'm staying on the planet with my thought process.
Scott, why Zootown Festival?
When I was in the entertainment program at University of Montana, I wanted to build a festival in Missoula. Like, that's it. And my professor and still very close friend to this day, Tom Webster, who ran which is now the Denison Theater, was like, hey, that's awesome. It's a great idea. I think you're from Dallas, Texas, and there's a lot more people down there to sell tickets and go cut your teeth. How about you go try that out? And then when the market's ready, take a look at it then. And so when I sold my business in 2000, at the end of 2022, to be honest, a big part of me was burnt out and tired, especially after getting through COVID and surviving that I questioned whether I wanted to get back into live entertainment. And I kind of poked around at a lot of different opportunities. And then this just, kept sitting in the back of my mind. And so finally, and the true story is like, my daughter was born and it had been like a year and a half of not doing anything since I sold. And that like next week, I just was like, all right, here's the list. Here are the ideas. What are you going to do? And I just said, I'm going to do Zootown. Well, at that time, it was just, I'm going to go for it on a festival in Missoula.
So what was your first phone call when you said, hey, I want to take this to Missoula?
My first phone call was to a friend who connected me with the local government, some local government officials, to have a conversation about engaging the city on what site would be the most feasible for what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah. And then thereafter meeting with officials in person and kind of taking the reins with Parks and Rec and doing a feasibility study on different sites around town.
During this whole process, did you find any, just in the history books of Missoula, why has there never been a Missoula festival? But yeah, we've got Three Forks, Whitefish, these smaller areas, pretty on big events. Why has it never happened here?
I don't, it's not, doing a music festival in Missoula is not easy. Like, infrastructure necessary for a music festival does not exist in market. So there's a lot that has to be brought in. I think that up until more recently, the idea of, especially of a festival of this size, relying solely on the local and regional market to sell the tickets necessary to even just get to break even or profitability hasn't even been even a thought process. And then you look back kind of like at what's happened with, the promoters in market, where they built, where they are today. I just don't know that it's been something that's been top of mind. And I'm certainly coming into a place and doing something that is, much riskier and has lofty goals. And that's kind of what it takes, though. And it takes kind of a long tail vision and a commitment of capital and resources to come in and say, we're going to jump in here. We're going to probably mess it up at the beginning, but we're going to be committed to figuring out a way to make this thing work for the long term. And it's just, the other part of that too is that the vast majority of independent producers, such as myself, like don't really exist as much as they used to. Most of those organizations and folks have been acquired by Live Nation, AEG, or other big promoters. And so there just aren't a huge amount of kind of gunslingers going out there trying to chase deals down like this.
Is that challenging, being independent and competing against the big guys?
Absolutely. It is absolutely the hardest part of this business, especially on the festival side. The festivals used to be events that artists and headliners would make the most money at. Like it would far surpass what they could make on a tour date. But now what Live Nation has kind of developed with their dynamic pricing in the last several years, you've got artists playing amphitheaters and arenas that are making, 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50% more than they were previously. And those grosses and walkouts can be, double what you'd be able to provide at a music festival. So really, in order to like get an artist to play a festival like this, it has to be in a market that they wouldn't make more money in an arena, more money in a stadium, and it has to resonate with what they're trying to accomplish that touring cycle.
So how do you go about finding artists? And then what is your pitch on specifically Zootown? Like, hey, we've never done this before. I'm not sure how it's going to go. You should come here.
Yeah. First it's having a team of operators that have a history of success. And that's what we have between my festival. My other business partner started Governor's Ball Music Festival, which is effectively the largest festival on the East Coast in New York. And then Knitting Factory, who's been in market for 20 plus years. So they're relying on our confidence and ability to present something that's going to work for the artist in the community. But then also, Missoula in Montana was not a hard sell. I mean, from a Hosier and a Casey perspective, they were really excited to have an opportunity to play in this market, especially during the summer. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the key to success on that end.
How many total artists do you have coming in for the festival?
About 20 over 2 days.
So how'd you guys create that list? How did you begin reaching out to? How do you decide who to build a festival around?
Yeah, so you start working from top down. So it's really about availability. I mean, first and foremost, it's about what type of festival are we trying to produce? And so you kind of put a target list together of headliners and artists, and you start reaching out to the agencies. I mean, there's really a handful of agencies that represent the vast majority of touring artists in the world. Mm-hmm. And so you just kind of start plugging away from there and putting in offers. Those offers get sent to management and artist teams, and then they start deciding whether or not it makes sense for them for all the various reasons they have to work through. And, we've sent a couple offers in for some initial artists that didn't work. And then finally, we got Casey Musgraves interested and got that confirmed. And then next thing you know, Hosier's team was looking to fill some dates in the region during that time period as well, and kind of get off to the races from there. Once you have the headliners booked, you're able to really start taking a bite at the remaining part of the lineup.
What are the dates again?
July 4th and 5th.
July 4th, 5. What can people expect at the first ever Zootown Festival?
Yeah, look, I mean, we're about to start putting information out like today and this next week, like schedule, transportation options, festival maps, and things like that. Someone posted on social media the other day, and they're like, I don't want to spend, X amount of dollars to go watch Hosier play at the grandstand at the fairgrounds. And I was just laughing because we are really and truly, as I kind of mentioned, the team and what we're doing, like we're trying to present a world-class pro level 1 music festival for this size in market. So we have like the F&B managers in business that run F&B for Bonnaroo and some of the other largest music festivals out in the country. We really want people to come here and say, we have never, ever even come close to experiencing a live entertainment experience like this. It doesn't exist. And that's our goal when people leave. And they just simply come back and say, like, we have the opportunity to see all of these artists play in Missoula for this price, and we don't have to then fly, spend money on travel, etc. It can happen here once a summer. Like, that is worth the value.
Scott, I know we're a couple of weeks out from this year's event, so I don't want to get the cart too far ahead of the horse, but you've already mentioned 2026 plans.
Mm-hmm.
Have those dates been released? Do you have any?
Not yet,
but it's coming.
But it's coming. Yeah, absolutely. We're, like I said, this is not a take a swing at it year one and figure it out. It's get through year one, produce as great of an event as we possibly can, and then learn and build from that in year 2 and beyond. We have a 5-year agreement with the county. Our goal is to be here for decades to come, truly. And I know that sounds like lofty, but I mean, that is when I set out to build this music festival, kind of the benchmark was the Newport Folk Festival, the Telluride Bluegrass Festival, and any other festivals that you're seeing out there that are now, encroaching 2 decades. That's where we aim to be. So
as you look at ticket sales, are you seeing that a majority of the audience is here local? Or are you seeing from around the state, around the region? Where are people coming from?
Right now it's kind of, it's split between out of state and in state. So already in year 1, and it's not, totally surprising that, especially during that time period, we have a huge amount of out of state interest. Certainly Washington, Idaho, Wyoming make up a good chunk of that. But also, I mean, we're selling tens of, double digits to triple digits worth of tickets across the country in other states, which is incredible.
Wow.
For a year 1 festival. So
how do you promote this? Like, advertise? What are the specifics and challenges of that, getting it out to people? Yeah.
So, it's paid media, digital media strategy is huge. Building a brand from just a design perspective from day 1, that's a big part of it. But then it's kind of partnerships locally, nationally with various media publications, and just kind of casting a wide net across the board. I mean, obviously locally and regionally is really important. We feel like we've done a good job of kind of getting the word out from that end. But you use artist channels to promote, you create content that can be absorbed, and people identify with. And what you're really doing is you're building a show, building an event for a certain specific group of people. And then you're carving out where are those people looking. And then you're looking to hit those folks' eyes as many times as you can, from the beginning.
Yeah. It's
a lifestyle brand, right?
First time I saw it was at Washington Grizzly Stadium at a football game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, so cool. So
we were excited. That was really fun. That was kind of the idea. Like, what can we do to get in front of a large group in market, like in Missoula, and make this kind of, because we're, yes, we're building a national brand. That's part of the goal. But like, first and foremost, we want this to be a community first event. We want Missoulians and, the greater region to feel ownership of this event. Like, this is made for us. This is something that we love and want to support. So that was the idea of, let's go to the stadium and kind of do a soft launch with the artist first there before we actually announce it to the greater country. That was really fun. Like the fireworks, the whole thing, it worked out pretty well. And fortunately the power went off after our announcement happened.
Have you received any pushback with the community, any challenges and obstacles you've had to overcome?
The first go around, we were attempting to utilize Playfair Park. We did not have the information that we needed at that time to recognize what the pushback was going to be from the community in that specific neighborhood. And as soon as we realized that, as we got deep into that process and we're going through the permitting process with the county, with the city, we pulled that permit. because it just wasn't worth it. Like I think a lot of people were looking at this crown jewel of their community and thinking, we're going to come in, we're going to screw it up.
I'm curious, is the pushback just sound, traffic? Like what?
I think it's a lot of unknown. Like I think when you think of festivals and you haven't had a festival like this in market, like you tend to skew towards like, what was the last big festival here?
Because
like Aber Day Kegger. Like people that live in that neighborhood are like, I remember when Aber Day Kegger was here and everyone was drunk, laid out across town. Like, is that what this is going to be like? And then people would say things like, what are they like? There's no infrastructure out there, right? It's like a lack of understanding and no fault to their own that they just aren't understanding like, oh, these folks are going to be spending millions of dollars bringing all of these best practices to play. All that being said, getting to the fairgrounds was one of the best things that could have happened to us.
Well, I find that a bit ironic. The fairgrounds is next door to Playfair Park. It's just a fence that separates the two. So So once the event is confined inside of that fence, the neighborhood seems to be fine with it.
I think so. I think it's just like we know this. Like they do events over there. That's what it's built for.
Yeah.
We had a different vision for Playfair Park. Like it was a larger, wide open park. The views and vistas were a bit different. There was a Splash Montana integration for the kids. But again, like all the reasoning behind not wanting it there was justified. And honestly, it we're really excited and happy with where we are today.
Yeah. And the fairgrounds, great facility with all the updates and like it's
beautiful.
Yeah.
Like all the buildings, and they just do a wonderful job maintaining it out there.
Is this the main focus for you? Is just this event, or are you doing other events also, or are you all in on this one?
Right now, I'm all in on this one. So once we've got other projects and things in the pipe that we're kind of in the development phase of, but for now, for the next 2 months, I am all in 100% focused on this festival.
I want to go kind of back to your story a little bit off script here from the festival. If you could go back in time and talk to the 22-year-old version of yourself and the experience you've had and the life lessons you've learned, what advice would you give to that 22-year-old who wants to step foot into the entertainment industry and start putting on events?
I would grab that guy and just say like, everything's going to be okay. Like you're going to get where you want to get. It's going to happen. It's just going to take patience, endurance, and, but you're going to get there. Cause I've been very goal oriented my entire career and life. And it's always, I think like we all are, like trying to get to a certain place or accomplish a certain thing and then getting frustrated when it's not happening within the timelines that you set for yourself for what you wanted. But it's one of the greatest things that I always come back to. There was a businessman in Dallas that did very well for him, said, he's like, when I looked back in the rearview mirror after 50 years, I realized that all that mattered was just staying in the game. And that's how I feel. Like small business is so hard. This business and industry is hard. All businesses and industry are hard. And there are those pivotal moments where it could all fall apart or you could figure it out. And I would say that if you've done enough homework on the front end, have the right people around you, you can figure out most things, I would say. Obviously, if you're not planning things properly and doing the right analysis. But anyway, staying in the game, I think is really important.
Scott, 3 quick questions for me, and then I'll let Steven wrap us up here. Question number 1, what has been your favorite event you've put on over the course of your career?
I think it was a drive-in concert during COVID with Deadmau5 at the Texas Motor Speedway with 1,000 cars.
Wild. What about it?
Work?
Yeah. What about it made it awesome?
I mean, it was like we used the entire infield. It was on New Year's Eve. So like we effectively we never took a year off. If you want to think about it that way, for the Lights All Night New Year's Eve festival. And there was like perfectly lined 1,000 cars in the right place. Like
all 6 feet apart.
All perfectly. 6 feet apart in front of the largest Jumbotron in the country with Deadmau5 playing on New Year's Eve.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Question number 2, what are you most looking forward to when it comes to the Zootown Festival?
I'm looking forward to seeing everyone I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at the fairgrounds, like from the local community and the greater community, and just seeing what that mix of people ends up being.
And third question is, where can listeners find more information, purchase tickets, get involved and be a part of the first Zootown Festival?
Zootownfestival.com is the best place to look online. Rockin' Rudy's has locally priced tickets. And then we should have some ticket outlets here at Paddlehead Games and the Clark Fork River Market. Last question from me, Scott. I'm not a music festival guy. Mm-hmm. What am I missing out on? Well, I understand that. And we're not, I to this day can go back and forth on being I was probably more of a music festival guy when I was younger than I am now.
Don't hold back, Scott. Give it to him. Tell him what he's missing out on.
But here's the deal. Okay. This isn't a 50,000 person music festival. This is a 15,000, especially in this year, it's like a 15,000 a day to 20,000 a day boutique music festival where you can see artists that and lineups that could effectively play in 20, 30, and 40,000 capacity events in a smaller boutique environment that you can get in and out of easily, that you can have your space, enjoy, you can get in the crowd if you want to, you can go back and carve out your space in our seating areas and things like that. We have VIP areas that are even more spacious, closer to the action and the stage, GA plus areas that have fixed restrooms, that have air conditioned lounges and things like that. So there's that kind of pitch on our show, but what you're missing out on is just community and seeing kind of all different types of people coming together for one reason. And I think that main reason is just to have a good time and relax and enjoy the moment. So I think it's worth taking a stab at and coming and checking it out. Thanks, Scott, for joining the show, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, thank you.
What's up, Missoula? This is Nick Balla, producer of the Missoula podcast. We truly appreciate you hanging out with us as we dive into the stories that make our city special. If you could do us a quick favor and follow the show wherever you are listening, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, maybe you're watching on YouTube, so hit that little subscribe button. It really helps us out. Head on over to www.themissoulapodcast.com for more information, and we'll see you next week.